Hi there. In the ancient book of Joshua, in chapter 1, Joshua is told 3 times to have courage, to be strong and courageous. Twice, God tells him, be very strong and courageous, be strong and courageous. And once his people, his followers, the nation of Israel, tell him, look, we'll do whatever you say, just be strong and courageous. And Joshua had a reason to need to be strong and to have courage. He had just inherited the role of leading the people of Israel from the man who was considered the greatest leader and the greatest prophet of Israel of all time, Moses. And not only that, but Joshua was about to take the people into a place that they had never been before and to do things that were new to them. There's going into the promised land and occupying it. God promised that he would be with Joshua wherever he went. Only be strong and courageous, he says. I think you and I, we need to be strong and courageous in these days too. If we look at the world around us, there's the pandemic is going on, of course. There's so much violence, there's so much division in society, especially in the States and in other countries, and a little bit in Canada. We see it and we experience it. And we need to be strong and courageous because we will feel tired. We need to be strong and courageous because we will be hesitant to do the things that we know we should do, or to say the things that we know we should say. And so God, I do believe, is saying to each one of us, be strong and courageous. And being strong and courageous here, it doesn't mean that we manufacture some sort of feeling of bravery, or that we have to empty ourselves of whatever fear is there, or whatever hesitancy is there, or if it's an issue of being tired, that we have to energize ourselves first. No, the way to be courageous is to focus on the task at hand and determine or will to do what needs to be done. That's what it means to be brave. So they say that courage is not the absence of fear, but it's doing what is right in the face of fear. And so when you feel tired, when you feel hesitant, when you feel afraid, but you know that you need to do the right thing, focus on it and will to do it. And that will be the act of courage in that moment. And I do believe that when God says, be strong and courageous, we can remember that he calls us to be strong and courageous too. We can take comfort in that, and he will help us to be strong and courageous. He will help us to do those things that we're afraid of doing. But I noticed something else about Joshua chapter 1. And I want to read for you where God does actually say, be strong and courageous to Joshua. It's verse 7 and on. God is speaking. He says, be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn to it from the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. So actually, God is not encouraging Joshua just to be strong and courageous in leading the people of Israel or into going into the promised land, he's exhorting Joshua to be strong and courageous in keeping his commands, in obeying the law of the Torah, or the word of the Torah, the law that God gave to the Israelites. That's actually what Joshua needed to be courageous for and to be strong for. Because as the leader of Israel, it would be so easy for Joshua to get caught up in politics or to get caught up in the military strategies of occupying the promised land, or the organizational structures of this people group, the people of Israel, and how to organize them as a culture and society. Joshua could get caught up in all of those things. Or he could hear the voices of the people and the complaints of the people and be tempted to give in to them or to compromise the law of God in order to please the people. And so God encourages him, be strong and courageous. Be careful to do everything I have commanded. And then the promise is, and everything will go well for you. You will prosper. We see in Joshua's life that is exactly what happens. And so you and I, we don't need only to be strong and courageous for, facing this pandemic, for example. We need to be strong and courageous in doing the word of God and the commands of Jesus. The command to love our neighbors, to love our enemies. We need to be strong and courageous for that. We need to be strong and courageous to love God with all of our heart, strength, soul, and mind when we're surrounded by so many other things which vie for our affection and our love and our attention. We need to be strong and courageous for caring for the poor and the sick, the widow and the orphan, those in prison, the hungry, the naked. Because that's out of our comfort zone. And even for me, it's even more scary now because of the pandemic. But be strong and courageous. As we determine, yes, I will do what you say to do, Jesus. I will live the way that you call me to live. And as we do it, in spite of fear, in the face of difficulties, in the face of weariness, that is an act of courage, and God will be with us. And as he promised to Joshua, it will go well with us, and we will prosper. So, however you're feeling these days, we're in the midst of our second wave. Be strong and courageous. Well, that's it for me for today. God bless, and I'll see you soon.